What if tonight your mind could step into a golden river, a river that flows only in dreams, a river that carries the energy of prosperity and the peace you have been searching for? This story is more than a tale. It is a path designed to guide your subconscious into alignment with abundance, so that even as you sleep, opportunities can find their way to you. This is the Golden River of Opportunities. A sleep story created to quiet your thoughts, calm your body, and gently reprogram your subconscious mind to attract wealth and peace with ease. Every detail, every description is meant to slow you down, to soften you, to invite you into a state where abundance is not something distant, but something already within you. Before we begin, I have a small request. If you are ready to step into the golden flow, take a moment to subscribe to this channel. And type in the comments, "I allow the golden river." This is not for me, it is for you. Because when you write those words, you are declaring it to your own subconscious. I allow opportunities. I allow peace. I allow prosperity to flow toward me. So take a slow, deep breath in and let it out gently. Again, inhale and exhale softly. Let the weight of the day begin to fade. Feel your shoulders loosen, your jaw relax, your eyes grow heavier. The world outside can wait. This is your time to rest, your time to allow, your time to float in the golden stream of well-being. Now close your eyes if you wish, and let me guide you into the journey of a weary traveler, a man who wandered for many days and nights, and who one evening discovered that the greatest river of wealth was not on a map, but hidden within himself. He was a traveler, a man who had walked further than his feet ever thought possible. His boots were worn thin, the leather cracked, the laces frayed, and yet he kept moving. Every step pressed dust into the soles, every road left another mark upon his shoes. The bag on his back sagged low, filled not only with belongings, but with the weight of all the miles behind him. The evening air was cool, brushing against his skin as he moved slowly along the empty path. The horizon stretched wide, painted in faint shades of grey and blue, the last glow of twilight fading into the distance. He adjusted the strap on his shoulder, feeling it dig into his skin. He exhaled heavily. He had carried that strap for so long, through towns, through forests, through deserts where the sun burned and nights froze. He remembered those deserts, how the sand shifted under his feet, how the wind howled against his ears, how the nights were so silent he could hear his own heartbeat echoing in the dark. He remembered the mountains, the sharp stones that cut his boots, the steep climbs that stole his breath. He remembered the villages too, the warm bread handed to him by strangers, the roofs of cottages glowing with firelight, the fleeting comfort of conversations that ended as soon as he moved on. Now under the open sky, he felt all those places still clinging to him. The dust of the road still clung to his clothes. The scent of pine forests still lingered faintly in his bag. His hair was uncombed, his hands rough, his eyes shadowed from lack of sleep. Yet he walked. He always walked. The path tonight was quiet. Stones lay scattered across the ground, smooth from centuries of footsteps that had passed before his. The grass bent gently in the breeze, whispering against his legs. Somewhere in the distance, a bird called out once and then fell silent. The sky above stretched endlessly, stars beginning to pierce through the veil of night, one after another, like lanterns being lit in a great cathedral of darkness. The traveler shifted his weight, slowing his pace. He lifted his hand to his forehead, wiping away the thin layer of sweat. His back ached from the long miles, his legs heavy, his breath shallow. He longed for rest, but still, something inside him urged him forward, as if the road was not finished, as if the night held one more secret waiting to be uncovered. His footsteps echoed softly in the stillness, step after step, slow and deliberate. The world around him seemed to quiet even further, as though listening. The air grew cooler, the stars grew brighter, and the weary traveler, though burdened and exhausted, carried on, unaware that the greatest discovery of his journey was waiting just beyond the darkness ahead. The traveler's bag was not large, but it was heavy. It sagged against his shoulders, pulling him down with every step. Inside it were things he thought he needed, things he could not yet let go of. There was a small tin cup, dented from years of use, the kind he had filled with water from mountain streams, the kind that had rattled against stones when he set it down in the dark. There was a wool blanket, worn and frayed, its edges unraveling, still carrying the faint smell of smoke from fires long past. There was a notebook, its pages bent and yellow, filled with words he had written but barely remembered, words that once felt important, but now were simply wait. And then there were the stones, yes, stones. He had picked them up along the way, one from a riverbank, one from a mountain path, one from a desert floor. He could not say why he carried them. Perhaps he thought they might be useful. Perhaps he thought they might remind him of where he had been. But now each stone was only heaviness, each stone pressed into his back, into his shoulders, into his memory. His boots, too, carried weight. The soles were filled with dust from roads he could not count. The leather carried cracks from winters and summers alike. When he lifted his feet, they seemed to resist, as if the ground itself wished to keep him. And yet, he moved forward. Step after step, the echo of his journey followed him. His body bore the story of his path. His knees ached from climbs too steep. His hands were scarred from branches that tore his skin. His shoulders stiff from nights where sleep never came. His eyes, once sharp with curiosity, now drooped with exhaustion, lids heavy, blinking slowly. And still he walked. But the heaviest burden was not in his bag, not in his boots, not in his bones. The heaviest burden was inside. It was the weight of questions he could not answer. The weight of roads he had chosen and roads he had not. The weight of wondering if all this walking, all this wandering, was leading him somewhere or nowhere at all. The night pressed close around him. The wind whispered across the grass, curling around his face, as if asking him to stop, to rest. But he could not. Or perhaps he would not. The strap of his bag dug deeper into his shoulder, and he pulled it higher, shifting the pressure from one side to the other. His breath came heavier now, slower, louder in the silence of the night. He thought of the people he had met, the innkeeper who gave him bread, the shepherd who showed him the way, the children who ran beside him laughing before vanishing back into their homes. He carried their faces too, tucked away in the corners of his memory, another kind of weight that slowed his steps and filled his chest with something he could not name. Every sound around him grew sharper as he slowed. The crunch of gravel under his boots, the rustle of his blanket shifting in the bag, the faint clink of the cup against the notebook. Even his own heartbeat felt heavy, beating like a drum that had marched with him for miles upon miles. And still, he walked, bent forward, pressed down by the load of objects, memories and questions. He walked. The path seemed endless. The night stretched long. The stars watched in silence. And the weary traveler carried on, carrying everything, carrying more than he ever needed, unaware that soon, very soon, the weight would no longer matter at all. The path stretched into a wide, open field, and the traveler slowed his steps. The trees thinned, the hills rolled back, and before him lay nothing but grass swaying under the quiet watch of the stars. He stopped for a moment, breathing in the air. It was cool, almost crisp, carrying the faint scent of earth after a long day. He let it fill his chest. He let it soften his tired lungs. Above him, the sky opened wide. Stars scattered themselves across the darkness, first in small groups, then in endless clusters, until it seemed that every part of the heavens was alight. Some stars were faint, trembling softly. Others shone strong, burning white against the velvet night. Together they formed rivers of their own, rivers of silver flowing silently from one horizon to the other. The moon, round and steady, hung above the field. Its light poured gently over the grass, over the stones, over the traveler's tired face. It was not harsh, not blinding, but soft, silken, wrapping the land in quiet silver. He tilted his head back, letting the moonlight fall across his closed eyelids. For a moment he felt as though he was floating, as though the night itself was carrying him. He lowered himself to the ground and sat upon a flat stone. The earth was cool beneath him, the stone smooth, worn by time. He placed his bag beside him, listening to the faint rustle as it settled into the grass. He looked around and heard almost nothing, only the slow whisper of the wind brushing through the field. only the far-off call of an owl hidden among the distant trees. The silence was deep, but not empty. It was full of presence, full of stillness, full of something that waited patiently. Each breath he took seemed louder than it should have been, echoing slightly in the still night air. He inhaled slowly, deeply. He exhaled softly, steadily. The rhythm repeated itself again and again, until his body seemed to move with the silence, until his breath became part of the night itself. The field stretched endlessly, rolling under the moonlight, disappearing into the shadows of the horizon. The traveler's eyes followed it, though he knew there was no end to see. His shoulders loosened, his jaw unclenched. His hands, rough and tired, rested loosely on his knees. He sat there for a long time, as if the night had invited him to pause, to listen, to rest. Yet still, somewhere deep inside, a quiet pull remained. Something told him his journey was not over. Something whispered that the night still held more for him. He could not name it, he could not explain it, but he felt it, a subtle urge to rise, to continue walking, to move towards something unseen. So he lifted his bag once again, slowly, carefully. He stood, feeling the weight settle back onto his shoulders. He turned his face toward the horizon, toward the quiet glow that seemed to shimmer faintly in the distance. And with tired steps, he began to walk once more, carrying himself into the deeper silence of the night. The traveler walked slowly, his feet pressing into the soft earth of the field. Each step was steady, deliberate, the weight of his bag shifting gently across his back. The silence of the night wrapped around him like a cloak, and only the sound of his boots against the ground reminded him that he was still moving. Then, far ahead, something flickered. At first it was faint, almost invisible, like a spark hidden within the horizon. He thought it might be a trick of his tired eyes, the kind of shimmer that appears when the body longs for rest. He blinked, rubbed his eyes with the back of his hand, and looked again. The shimmer was still there. It was not silver like the stars, nor white like the moon. It was golden, a soft, steady glow that pulsed gently, as though alive. The traveler narrowed his eyes, trying to see more clearly, but the distance made the light blur and bend. For a moment, he wondered if it was fire, perhaps a lantern left by another wanderer, perhaps the glow of a distant hearth. But no, it was too smooth, too fluid, too alive. The air felt different as he moved toward it. Cooler, yet filled with a strange warmth that settled in his chest. The grass seemed to bend differently in this part of the field, swaying as if pulled by an invisible current. The traveler slowed his pace, uncertain but curious. With every step, the golden shimmer grew brighter. With every step, it pulled at him more strongly, as though it had been waiting. He paused, standing in the silence, watching. The glow rippled faintly, like light reflecting on moving water. He tilted his head, unsure. Could it be a river? No, no river should shine like that. No water should glow with the color of the sun. And yet, the shimmer flickered again, stretching wider, spreading like a golden ribbon across the land. His heart beat heavier now, not from fear, but from something else, a quiet knowing, a sense that this was no ordinary sight. His breath slowed, deepened, matching the pulse of the light. Inhale. The glow seemed to rise. Exhale. The glow seemed to soften. It was as if the light itself was breathing with him. The traveler placed one hand on his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heart against his palm. The glow flickered again, brighter this time, spilling golden reflections across the field, and he knew without doubt that he had to follow it, that whatever waited ahead was meant for him. So, tightening the strap of his bag once more, he stepped forward into the golden shimmer of the night. So at last, the traveler reached the source of the golden shimmer. He stopped, breath caught in his chest, as the field before him gave way to water. A river stretched wide and quiet, its surface smooth as glass, yet glowing with a light that seemed to rise from within. It was not the pale silver of the moon reflected on ordinary streams. It was gold, pure, endless, flowing gold. The river did not roar, did not rush. It whispered. The sound was soft, steady, like thousands of tiny chimes hidden beneath the current. Each note seemed to echo in harmony with the night, as if the stars themselves were singing through the water. The traveler stood still, listening, the sound weaving into his heartbeat, his breath, his very being. He lowered himself slowly to the edge of the bank, crouching down, his tired knees pressing into the cool earth. He dipped his hand toward the surface. The moment his fingertips touched, ripples spread outward in perfect circles, each ripple glowing as though made of liquid sunlight. He pulled his hand back, startled at first, but then smiled faintly. The glow remained on his skin, a faint shimmer that pulsed softly before fading. The stars above mirrored themselves perfectly in the golden water. For a moment, it was impossible to tell where the sky ended and the river began. The moon floated both above and below, as though the world had folded itself into a circle of light. The traveler's reflection appeared too, but not the weary, dust-covered man he thought he would see. Instead, his face looked calmer, softer, his eyes brighter, his shoulders lighter. He blinked, leaned closer, searching the reflection, but the image did not vanish. The river was not only showing him what was, it was showing him what could be. The air around him grew warmer, as though the glow of the river was wrapping itself around his body. He placed both hands on the ground, steadying himself, and leaned forward once more, mesmerized. His chest rose and fell slowly, his breath syncing with the rhythm of the water. The traveler whispered to himself, though no one was there to hear, "What are you?" The river did not answer with words, but with light. A single wave rippled across the surface, slow and deliberate, carrying with it a glow so bright that for a moment it illuminated the entire field, casting golden patterns across the grass, across the stones, across the traveler's face. And in that glow he felt something stir deep within him, a quiet sense of recognition, as though he had not discovered the river, but remembered it. As though the river had always been waiting, patiently, silently, for him to arrive. The traveler stood at the edge of the glowing river, staring at the calm, golden surface. His heart was slow, steady, beating in rhythm with the faint chimes that rose from the current. He hesitated. For a moment, he wondered if he should stay on the shore, watching from a distance. But something inside him, gentle yet undeniable, urged him forward. He loosened the strap of his bag, letting it slip from his shoulders. It fell quietly onto the grass, the weight of his long journey left behind. He stood lighter, freer, as though the river had already begun its work before he even touched the water. Taking a deep breath, he lifted one tired foot and placed it onto the golden surface. The water accepted him immediately, not cold, not heavy, but warm and soft, wrapping around his skin like silk. Ripples spread outward in glowing circles, each one expanding, shimmering, fading slowly into the current. The sound was soft, like bells ringing far away. He lifted his other foot and stepped deeper. Again the water responded. Another circle of golden light spread outward, overlapping with the first, brighter, wider. With each step he took, the river seemed to awaken more, as if greeting him, as if recognizing him. The water reached his ankles now, glowing brighter around him. He looked down and saw not only his reflection, but thousands of tiny golden sparks swirling around his legs. They moved with purpose, flowing upward, as though coding his body with a new energy, rewriting his story line by line. He took another step. The sound of the river deepened, the chimes clearer, more melodic. Each note seemed to carry words without words, affirmations without voice. You are safe, you are worthy, you are abundant. The traveler felt the phrases in his chest, not spoken, not thought, but known. Step after step, the water welcomed him. Each footfall opened another circle of light, another doorway rippling outward. And though he moved forward, he realized something unusual. He was not walking into the distance. He was walking inward. The path of the river did not stretch far away. It stretched into him. His breath slowed. His shoulders softened. His eyes grew heavy. The golden current held him gently, as if it had been waiting for this moment all along. And with one more step, he smiled faintly. The journey had led him here, not to another land, not to another destination but to himself. The traveler moved deeper into the golden current, each step sending gentle circles of light outward, each ripple blending with the stillness of the night. The water rose slowly, brushing against his calves, but it was not heavy, not cold. It carried him, supported him, as though the river itself knew his weariness and had decided to bear the burden for him. He noticed something unusual. With every step forward, the world around him grew quieter, softer, slower, not fading but shifting. It was as though the river was not carrying him into distance, but into memory. Each golden ripple seemed to open a doorway, and within each doorway he saw glimpses of himself. In one ripple he saw the boy he once was, running through open fields, free and fearless, believing the world would always welcome him. In another ripple, he saw the man who had taken his first journey, carrying hope, carrying dreams, carrying the belief that life would open its arms to him. And yet, in another ripple, he saw the tired traveler he had become, worn, heavy, uncertain, yet still moving forward. The river was not showing him strangers, it was showing him pieces of himself. Each reflection shimmered, then dissolved back into the water, as if reminding him that all those versions still lived within him, still guided him, still shaped the path beneath his feet. He slowed his pace, lowering his hands to touch the water's surface. As his fingers brushed the glow, waves of warmth spread through his chest. He felt doors opening, not outside, but inside. Doors to strength he thought he had lost. Doors to courage he thought had faded. Doors to opportunities that had been waiting all along. The chimes of the river grew clearer now, each tone carrying more than sound. They carried truth. They carried knowing. He inhaled slowly, and the tones seemed to rise with his breath. He exhaled, and the tones sank deeper, echoing within him. Step after step, the traveler understood. This was not a road to another place. This was the road inward. The golden river was guiding him not toward new lands, but toward the wealth already inside him. The wealth of memory, the wealth of possibility, the wealth of being alive, present, and open. His shoulders loosened further. His eyes grew softer. His lips curved into the faintest smile. He walked not as a man searching, but as a man remembering. The river was not leading him away. It was leading him home, home to himself. The river glowed brighter as the traveler moved deeper, its surface no longer just rippling but forming shapes, arcs of light that rose gently from the water like golden gateways. At first, they shimmered faintly, as if unsure, as if waiting. But with each step he took, the arches grew taller, clearer, solid in their brilliance, stretching upward like doors made of living light. He paused before the first one. The water beneath his feet stilled, and within the arch he saw a vision. Not a dream, not an illusion, but a possibility. He saw himself walking through a village, not weary, not burdened, but light, confident, smiling as people turned to greet him. The vision shimmered, then faded, dissolving back into the river. He took another step, and a second arch appeared. Inside it, another image unfolded, his hands resting on the soil of fertile land, golden fields stretching out before him, harvests overflowing, abundance surrounding him like air. Again the image lingered, pulsed with life, then melted back into the current. Step after step the river revealed more. Each ripple rose into another door, another window of light. Some showed peace, him resting beneath a quiet tree, his body whole, his mind calm. Some showed prosperity, coins of gold flowing not as weight but as freedom, opportunities arriving like the endless stars above. Some showed love, warm faces, open arms, laughter filling the silence. The traveler stood in awe. Each archway seemed to breathe, glowing softly, waiting for him to choose. But he did not need to choose. He only needed to see. Because the river was not asking him to step through the doors, it was reminding him that the doors were already his, always available, always open, hidden only by the weight he once carried. The chimes of the river deepened, echoing softly. You are worthy. You are guided. You are abundant. The words resonated through the arches, through the traveler's chest, through the night itself. He lifted his hand, brushing the edge of one golden doorway. The light warmed his skin, lingered on his fingertips, and then dissolved gently into him. He realized then that the doors were not separate. They were him. They were his possibilities, his paths, his truths. The river rippled again, forming more arches, stretching as far as his eyes could see. And with every arch, with every vision, the traveler felt lighter, freer, clearer. For the first time in all his wandering, he was not searching for the path. He was walking the path that had always been within him. The traveler stopped in the center of the golden river. The arches of light still shimmered all around him, rising and fading, pulsing gently like the breath of the universe itself. He stood in silence, the water glowing softly at his feet, the current humming like a lullaby, the night holding him in its arms. For the first time in all his wandering, he was not thinking of where to go, not wondering what road to take. He was simply here. He closed his eyes. The glow of the river did not vanish. It deepened. Behind his eyelids, he saw the golden arches continue to appear, one after another, infinite doors rising in the darkness of his mind. He felt them not as visions outside of him, but as truths already written within him. The river was not showing him the future. The river was reminding him of what had always been possible. He placed his hand on his chest, feeling his heart. The beat was steady, slow, heavier than before, yet calm, as if the river had synced its rhythm with his own. Beat, you are safe. Beat, you are guided. Beat, you are abundant. The words did not come from his thoughts. They came from the water. They came from the light. They came from within. He thought of all the years he had carried weight, the stones in his bag, the memories on his shoulders, the doubts in his mind. He thought of the deserts he had crossed, the mountains he had climbed, the endless roads he had followed, always believing the treasure was somewhere ahead, somewhere far, somewhere waiting at the end. But now he understood. The treasure had never been at the end of the road. The treasure had been in the road itself. The treasure had been in him. The river pulsed again, brighter now, as if answering his thoughts. Waves of golden light rose up around him, circling him, wrapping him in warmth. He felt as though invisible threads were weaving themselves into his body, into his breath, into his very being. Each thread whispered softly as it touched him, "You are not lacking. You are not broken. You are already whole. You are already abundant." Tears formed at the corner of his eyes, though he did not cry. They did not fall from sadness. They came from release, from the soft truth settling into him after so long. He let his shoulders drop, fully, completely. He let his hands fall to his sides, open and empty, no longer clinging, no longer holding on. He exhaled slowly, deeply, as if letting go of years of wandering with a single breath. When he opened his eyes again, the arches still glowed, but they no longer looked like doors he needed to pass through. They looked like mirrors, reflections of the wealth already pulsing in his own heart. Each arch was not a path outward, but a reminder inward. Each vision was not a promise waiting in the future, but a vibration already alive in him now. The traveler lifted his face to the sky. The stars shimmered above. The moon glowed softly, silver meeting gold in perfect harmony. The river, the sky, his breath, his heart, everything moved as one. And he whispered into the silence, into the current, into himself, "I was never lost. I was always here. I was always enough." The river answered, not with words, but with peace. A silence so deep it filled him, a stillness so complete it became his own. The arches of light slowly dissolved, sinking back into the current, not disappearing but merging with him, as if to say, they were never separate from you. They were always you. The traveler stood quietly in the golden water, not searching, not longing, but knowing. The revelation was simple, but it was everything. The golden river was not outside of him. It was inside. It always had been. The traveler stepped slowly out of the golden current, the water glowing softly around his legs, until the last ripple faded back into the river. His feet touched the cool grass of the riverbank, and he lowered himself gently to the ground. The earth welcomed him, steady and firm beneath his tired body. He lay back, eyes half closed, and let the glow of the river bathe him in its quiet light. The sound of the current was soft to hear, like a gentle song drifting across the night. The chimes of the water blended with the rustle of the grass, with the steady rhythm of his breath, with the silence of the stars above. The moon watched over him, casting silver across the land, while the river cast gold. Silver and gold met around him, wrapping him in balance, wrapping him in peace. He rested his head on his arm, the bag set aside, forgotten. The stones, the blanket, the tin cup, all the things he once thought he needed, were no longer heavy, no longer his burden. He had stepped into the river, and the river had shown him that none of it was necessary. The true weight, the true treasure, was already within. As his eyes grew heavier, he thought of the arches of light, of the visions he had seen. He thought of the boy he once was, the man he had become, and the man he now knew he could always be. He thought of the simple truth the river had whispered, that prosperity was never something he had to chase. It was something he only had to allow. The grass pressed gently against his back. The breeze brushed against his face. The night wrapped itself around him like a blanket. He exhaled slowly, fully, releasing the last of his wandering into the darkness. And as he drifted into sleep, he realized he was no longer a traveler. He was no longer searching, no longer restless, no longer lost. He was simply resting in the river of himself, abundant, safe, whole. Now, dear listener, as you rest with the traveler, I invite you to remember his lesson. The Golden River was not a destination. It was not far away. It was not something he had to find. It was always inside him. And just as it was inside him, it is inside you. Abundance does not come from effort. Prosperity does not come from struggle. Wealth is not something you chase. It is something you align with. It is something you allow. And tonight, as you listened, as you breathed, as you drifted with this story, you have already begun to align. You have already stepped into your own golden current. So repeat gently in your mind, not as effort, but as truth. I allow prosperity. I allow peace. I allow abundance to flow through me. Let the words soften as you think them. Let them blur into your breath. Let them dissolve into your dreams. And now I ask you softly, are you still awake? If you are, type in the comments, I am still awake, and I allow the Golden River. That will be your declaration, your reminder, your alignment. But if your eyes are closing, if your body is heavy, if you are already sinking deeper into the river of sleep, then do nothing. Simply rest. Simply allow. Simply drift. Because even in your dreams, your subconscious is still listening, still absorbing, still flowing with abundance. So rest now. Rest deeply. Rest completely. The Golden River flows within you, always, quietly, endlessly. And with every breath you take tonight, it carries you closer and closer to peace, to prosperity, to yourself. Good night. Sleep well. The river is already yours.